Fighting games are, and will always be, the ultimate put your money where your mouth is and let your skills do the talking genre of gaming. It's personal, and there are limited interfering factors. Fighting games pit two players against each other with their avatar or teams throwing down, with no one to blame but themselves if they lose. It's the only way to settle the score without guns or real fists, in my opinion. Yeah, you can boot up some Mario Kart 8 and be fake competitive while pretending the randomized items aren't running the show, or you can turn off that mid-ass switch, turn on some Guilty Gear Strive, and settle your feud like adults in a relatively more balanced, fair environment. Fair, I guess. All that stands between you and your opponent is your ability to react, defend, attack, and best your opponent until their health bar reaches 0. It's simple at its core, and it's just the right amount of classy and barbaric competition that brings so many people together worldwide. It's basically just rock, paper, scissors, but with fireballs and guys getting uppercutted in the fucking face. It's not all serious either. You can jump in and mash some buttons, looking at cool shit the characters can pull off, and play the game every once in a while when friends come over, or you just feel like hopping on in between, rounds of Warzone or whatever. You can go the complete opposite way and dedicate yourself to getting good by spending time in training mode and completing trials, honing your timing and familiarity with the game while talking mad shit on Twitter like yours truly. You can play story mode and ignore all of the other modes. You can play with your younger sibling and barely even know what a Roman cancel or dragon punch motion is. But one thing remains true throughout any of these playstyles. The player is in control, and how they choose to utilize the tools is up to them. But if you're like me and are obsessed with the fighting game community, the simple thrill of seeing our first Shoryuken or getting a Hadouken input to execute when we want it are in the rear view. They're not as impressive as they used to be. We are focused on how to get better. How do I best this character with my main who I've spent 100 hours with but I can't seem to get past that fucking DP? How can I input this combo better? What the hell is negative edge, and why does it sound like something really edgelordy and nasty? It is. Even though I personally have been playing fighting games since my older brother could put the fucking controller in my hand, I would say my serious journey into getting better, mastering a character, and attempting to compete started last year after getting absolutely addicted to Guilty Gear Strive. I've always been a casual player, picking up every entry in Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, Injustice, Dead or Alive. We even played some of those old Deadliest Warrior games. Anyway, we played a lot of fighting games, and for as long as I can remember, for every system since the Nintendo. But treating it like a competition and something I want to better myself at came at a time when I was stuck in the house with my hobby unless I wanted to catch, that thing. With a few hours in the Guilty Gear Strive and a thick fighting game library on my PC and PlayStation, I decided to invest in a fighting stick, a tool I always thought would make me better at fighting games. I ended up learning a sobering lesson, which brings us to today's topic. Skills in relation to tools when it comes to the fighting game scene. Damn it, if I did the other one, you would have been dead. Oh my god! Oh my god! Fuck that. Fuck. I bought my fight stick in March 2021, about 10 months ago or so. For years, all the pros I watched, whether they were Justin Long, Daigo, or even more casual guys like Maximilian Dood, used fight sticks when playing fighting games. It seemed like a no-brainer. The good guys use sticks, so if I want to be good, I should also use a stick. Simple enough, despite the fact that I was ignoring players like the godlike Sonic Fox, who uses pad, or the alien himself, Otashi, 2021 Guilty Gear Strive Evo champion, who is the only person in the world I've seen prefer the PS5 pad over the PS4 pad, besides myself, and yeah, that shows you how fucking weird that is. Fucking sicko. I told myself there are inherent benefits to using the stick. More mobility and accuracy with that sexy ass ball top stick, more well-defined buttons so my miss inputs would be less likely, and I'd have overall less strain on my hands. So I purchased my first and current fight stick, the Mayflash F500, and went to work. At first, I couldn't even fathom how to get my inputs in without riding the gate. I also couldn't figure out how to use more than 2 or 3 fingers to hit the buttons. So yeah, you can say I wasn't having exactly the best or easiest start with it, but with Strive being the game of the moment, the game everybody was playing, I just got it because my best friend said he was starting to play it, I decided that I was only going to play that game with the fight stick. And boy, was that shit annoying as hell for the first couple of weeks. Like I said earlier, I have been using a pad, specifically the PlayStation controllers for the most part, since I was a child that could barely read. Using this fight stick took me back to the days of learning how to play video games from scratch. I couldn't get a Hadouken to go off in time while playing arcade mode in Street Fighter V. I couldn't do the basic mission mode objectives in Guilty Gear Strive, which is unbelievably frustrating, considering I could do them no problem with the PS5 controller. I would switch in between both controller types to test how much more developed my muscle memory was, and shocker, I used the controller I spent the most time with better than the big lap box I bought in an effort to get good. I feel like Max Dood explained it best in one of his videos talking about using a controller over a stick, where he kind of just describes the experience of attempting to use a fight stick as very confusing back in the day.
Missed. God, wrong button. You have like no muscle memory. You have no idea where anything is. Or even like, how do you hold this fucking thing? Do I hold it like a wine glass? Do I touch it like it's a sexual object? You have no idea what to do with an arcade stick, and you'll have to develop an entire set of muscle memory based on this thing that you have not used at all. It's like playing baseball your whole life, and suddenly you have to go play soccer.
The thing with a traditional fight stick is that it's not just moving your thumbs around a D-pad while using the other thumb to mash away, or, press precise buttons if that's your thing, I guess. It involves using more of your arm and wrist to get execution out of the stick the way you want it to work, rather than like forcing it and riding the gate and smacking it around a little too much, right? You may think you're pulling off that half circle or Shoryuken motion, but you're actually going too slow, or hitting the wrong part of the stick, or riding the gate. Without getting too into the minutia, I had to brace myself for developing an entire new sense of muscle memory for inputs, rather than overthinking the motion and failing. I played Strive with my best friend, I played a lot of Them's Fightin' Herds online since there were less buttons to remember, and I even used to play Hades for a bit to get used to the stick and using more than 1 or 2 fingers on the main buttons. Eventually, it all came together about 3 months later, where I could use a new character in my usual games without having to panic about where the buttons were and if my PK actually made itself useful on the dash macro and the RC buttons for Guilty Gear. So, of course, I absolutely decimated the competition and won EVO 2021. No, but seriously, I didn't get any better at fighting games because of the fighting stick itself, at least not directly. I played more fighting games in 2021 than I have since the release of MK11 in 2018 and Street Fighter in 2016. I lost a lot, won some, and got incredibly frustrated along the way. All I could think about for a lot of the time was, damn it, I know what I want to do, but I can't pull it off. Whether it was a GO-RC combo in Guilty Gear or a basic BNB in Them's Fightin' Herds. I took breaks, sometimes weeks off, before I could come back because of the anger. Why can't I win with Ryu in Street Fighter V anymore like I could back in the day? Why am I playing like it's my first fighting game? Why am I losing to the noobs? Why does it seem like everyone is so much better than me? And my personal favorite, why did I even buy this stupid fucking stick? I thought it would make me better. It took a long time to answer those questions myself, and it all boiled down to realizing I'm not a naturally gifted fighting game player, and the only way I was going to play well, and more importantly, play the way I wanted to, was to practice. Think about it like studying for a test, except with way more gratuitous nudity and fireballs, etc., etc. If you train for a scenario in a fighting game simply by playing other players or solving practice problems, then you will end up more prepared in that. It's repetitive learning at its finest. But when it comes to fighting games, your reaction times, combo accuracy, and thinking patterns will develop like a muscle, or a skill like playing the guitar or creative writing. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Practice makes you more ready and able in fighting games or any other hobby. I just wanted an easy way out of practice with the fighting stick, which ended up making me have to practice more than ever because of my unfamiliarity with fighting sticks outside of the occasional round of Marvel vs. Capcom at the theater in my hometown circa 2002. While I don't regret the process, and I now prefer the fighting stick due to its tactile nature, and how awesome it feels to simulate that arcade experience I never actually got to have. The fight stick is not what makes me more of a competent and confident player than I was a year ago. It's more so, a tool that I've grown an appreciation for after using it for quite a bit. Now, I do want to make it clear that I am not speaking for any other players, especially players with disabilities, that genuinely would have an easier time with the fight stick instead of a standard pad or vice versa. There are adaptive controllers, specifically made by Microsoft, that are extremely customizable and fit for a wider set of needs. If you need a controller due to your disability, I'm not going to say a damn thing to you, especially on what kind of controller it is. Do you? I just want to make it clear for everyone that not thinking you're good at video games because your controller is much, much more different than a controller causing you pain or not fitting your needs for being able to play the game. And no, I'm not going to use disabled Street Fighter player Brawly Legs as an example for why anybody should be able to use any controller, because that's just false equivalency and ableist. Brawly Legs is just good as hell at Street Fighter, first of all, so acting like most players could do what he does without hands with any controller makes the conversation moot. Believe it or not, I can still play just as fine with a PS5 controller. It's just more fun to smack the buttons with a layout that's personally more accurate for me and lets me move my hands around. Plus, it's more comfortable. personally. That's not to say you should be using a PS5 controller because I can use one and vice versa, and everybody should be able to use it. Why are you complaining? Blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm trying to say, right? I also still have a long way to go. After diving into the FGC, I kind of developed a complex that I was supposed to be as good as Kizzie K or other professionals that have been playing thousands of hours longer than me, and for different reasons. Which is why I would like to mention what actually helped me get better at fighting games in 2021, not just my new favorite controller that I'm still getting the hang of. I know some of us don't know what it's like to communicate in person anymore because of the whole, pandemic thing, but going into a fighting game of your choice with a friend or two down to clown is always better than buying a game by yourself. The key word is joining with a friend, which implies you should get a friend into the game at around the same time as yourself. I got lucky with Guilty Gear Strive, since my best friend picked it up as his first serious fighting game, as it gave me more incentive to buy it, besides the fact that I really like Guilty Gear XR'd. I kind of stole this tip from BrendanMushi, so I'll let him say it better.
I have a group of friends that I play every fighting game with that comes out, but originally I was the only one that played fighting games, but I taught all of my friends how to play fighting games because they became interested in fighting games because of me. So I taught them how to play from scratch, all of them. There's about like 5 or 6 at this point that I've taught.
Sparring partners, whether you've known them for years before your game of choice came out or you met them through r/Guilty Gear, makes playing any fighting game so much less stressful. You can practice against a non-dummy or CPU enemy who's willing to let you experiment. Also, it's a video game, so you're gonna be able to have fun and actually not think about just getting your ass beat, since you're playing a game with your friends at the end of the day, right? It's not this super struggle thing where you're trying to beat Evo or some shit. The biggest problem with only playing online or without friends all of the time is the lack of chances to truly learn a matchup without having to put in 100 hours with randoms. For example, my best friend plays Zato, one of the more confusing characters to play against in the Guilty Gear series, and as a result, I usually smoke random Zatos online since I have more playtime against them than any other character. My friend told me some of his tricks, I've memorized Zato's BNBs, and I know what to look for when I'm approached by other players, even ones that might play Zato completely differently than him. Conversations about how to approach neutral with each other's mains, how to counter specific techniques, and questions about how to pull off a sick combo naturally come up when you and a group of friends have two goals: learning and having fun. Unless you're trying to go pro, which I know nothing about, it's good to have a more casual learning environment to go back to in between ranked sessions, casual matchmaking, and grinding and training. Remember, games are supposed to be fun. That's like the whole reason they were created. They're still fun bonding experiences. They don't have to be like this super try-hard grind session where you get mad that you can't beat your friend. It's just all about having fun, Of course, you can be competitive, but there's a difference between, thinking you have to be the best in the world and, just having some fun with your friends. I know this might seem counterintuitive or contradictory to what I just said, but if you aren't buying a game just to play with your friends, which is still a fine option, and you actually do want to hone your skills or even pull off sick combos, playing online is essential if you can't play with a variety of friends or anyone in your local scene. In 2022, despite numerous complaints about how X game doesn't have good netcode or rollback, but Y game does, so we should all play it, this is probably the best time to play fighting games online. Most of the big names have rollback implemented, albeit to different, standards, but a lot of options are smooth for the most part. We should be taking advantage of that by playing other people across the globe as often as we can. Playing online gives you experience with matchups you may never see with your friends who have different mains. I don't know any Potemkin players in real life, but boy, I have played a lot of them, and a lot of Rams in Guilty Gear Strive purely due to the amount of hours I put into online. A problem I ran into very early on with Strive, due to its lackluster selection of modes, was a lack of matchup knowledge. I was very good with Geo, but not against half of the cast since I had never actually fought most of them. Now, I know what you're thinking. You'll still run into that problem since people online tend to play specific characters and leave the others in the dust. That's why tier lists exist, that's why, favorite characters exist, etc, etc. My response to that is that's simply better than playing the same 3 friends who play the same 3 characters over and over. Even if you don't want to hop online, join a Discord server or find some Twitter friends to spar with to broaden your horizons. Variety in your gameplay is important for learning, and if you're not going to play the character yourself, the best thing you can do is seek them out online. Strive is great for this, especially on Reddit and Twitter, so if matchmaking seems lame to you and you're more of a player match person, give those communities a shot. The FGC can be weird, but the group you find mutual interest with doesn't have to be. I cannot stress this enough, especially since I still struggle with this. It is okay to lose. You are not at EVO, this is not a money match, there are not fans watching, you don't have any fans, and even if all that was true, losing is not gonna end you, right? You're gonna be okay. While I do believe fighting games are fantastic and maybe the best genre of gaming, I think it can also be the most angering and frustrating. You can get the floor mopped with you in NBA 2K20, sure, but something about seeing a character you put time and effort into, and sometimes emotion, get the actual shit beat out of them is demoralizing at times, especially when you're learning a game and recently reached a milestone, or you're playing Mortal Kombat and you see your character literally get eviscerated, disemboweled, or decapitated. Yeah, you learn how to do that combo, but when the fuck are you gonna pull it off when Milia keeps juggling you? God damn it. My entire perspective on enjoyment of fighting games changed when I personally thought about learning more than trying to force wins. I do my best every match, and before I changed my mindset, I felt like a failure whenever I lost. The win was what mattered, even though there was no money or reputation on the line. I'm just some guy in my house trying to do cool shit in fighting games while reading opponents for the sake of competition, but the competition shouldn't ruin the fun. Once losing it became more of a learning experience, how could I have blocked that? Where can I make use of this move more? How can I take advantage of the neutral with this move? Instead of a punishing and annoying one, why does that move exist? Why do these idiots play this character online? Why is this so cheap? Why can't I win at all? I actually started winning more. Instead of dwelling on losses, I tested myself with situations in practice mode and carefully read my human opponent so I could try to react to their playstyle instead of continuing my bullheaded pursuits. The wins grew, yeah, but my confidence in playing the game and finding opportunities to play various matchups got better more than anything, which is what made the wins come more often. Now, losses make me laugh or mostly reflect, and I take them on the chin. If anything, I still got to play a video game, so I'm still the winner at the end of the day, right? Change your mindset to a game-improving, self-celebrating one instead of a harsh one where you're your own worst critic and can point out what makes you mad that you lost in a heartbeat. No one likes a salty loser. Also, sometimes it's better to chalk up your loss to getting outplayed than it is to blame everything under the sun, including frame data, cheating, or as I like to call them, intended game mechanics, and tier lists. If you really think those are the things holding you back from winning and having fun, maybe it's time to either be real with yourself or switch games. It can't always be the game's fault, and you're going to lose regardless. Everybody does. Enjoy the game for what it actually is. When I play fighting games, I try to remember why I started playing them in the first place. They look cool as shit. Very few things look cooler than Ken pulling off his Ultra or Arxis putting 300 frames a second into the cinematics for each character special. Competition is fine, no one is saying you have to be okay with losing, but it's more about the spirit of remembering why you touched the controller in the first place. Not trying to pick on anyone, but the Smash community seems to forget the series is a party game, and sometimes I forget Guilty Gear Strive is not a fight to the death to defend the honor of my wife and family. I have a lot more fun with Street Fighter V when I remember that I'm playing it for fun and not to reach Super Diamond Master McDouble or whatever the fuck it's called. If a game is tilting you to the point where you can't have fun, where looking at Saul Bad Guy's stupid ass face makes you mad or want to throw the controller at your screen and, have to buy yourself a new TV next week, then maybe that's time to take a break. No, seriously, take a break. Play another game, go take a walk, browse the internet for a while, or even take a day or two off if nothing seems to work anymore. Every activity requiring focus, attention, and a thick skin can bring anyone to a slump, and fighting games are no different. Go play a round of Mario Kart with a friend, and try to go online a couple days later when Celestial 4 isn't full of a bunch of gold Lewises. Slow down. This is for my fast thinkers and monkey brain oonga boonga individuals. Slow the fuck down. The game moves at the pace you make it move, and if you're rushing down too much and keep speeding to your death, then you should take stock and relax. Just because games reward you for offense and attacks doesn't mean you literally have to be advancing and attacking at all moments. A perfect example would be Guilty Gear. They literally benefit you with moving forward on your opponent, knocking them through walls, etc., etc. But that doesn't mean you have to do that the entire time. I cannot begin to explain how much slowing down made playing neutral much more enjoyable, less aggravating, and more importantly, more controllable due to letting go of that need to advance on the opponent all the time. So, if you want to play on a fight stick because that feels more authentic to the genre or you just think it looks cool and sounds fun, you should think about getting a fight stick. It will take some time to get a hang of its usage, but it's a fun, rewarding, and challenging experience, and it'll gift you muscle memory and the ability to actually know what you're doing with the stick without staring at your fingers. Now, if you can use your own controller for your console just fine, but you feel like the fighting stick will be a quick fix to your developing skills because you're tired of losing or you just really feel like you need that win, you might want to practice first before accidentally making yourself start over learning fighting games from the beginning. Sometimes the hard truth is that the guy whooping your ass online is using the same controller you are, just as competently. They're just better than you are at the game or have more experience. The only way to get past that is to spend more time playing and getting good the old-fashioned way. Now, I'm not telling anybody what to do, I just want to save any naive fighting game enthusiasts from tricking themselves into thinking they will suddenly be able to pull off combos and score wins simply from buying a different controller. But also, I mean, I'm not your dad, so you don't have to do what I say, but don't go complaining online about how you can't win. And practice, you scrub. Thank you for tuning in and listening to my experience as a lowly scrub who's learning not to be so scrubby with a fight stick in my hand. I'll be back with another video about fighting games eventually, so if you want to tune into that, subscribe to the channel. I'll probably be back eventually, I promise. I want to do more fighting game content, so that'll definitely be on the way. But in the meantime, what kind of controller do you use? What kind of fight stick do you use? Am I using a poor quality one? If so, which one do you recommend? And have you considered buying or building your own fight stick? And with that, I'll catch you guys later. All my socials are on the screen, so if you feel like talking to me, hit me up. Catch you guys later.